Hello folks, it's been a little while since we had a chat, and this chat and this stuff is going to be about some fighting theories. I may tie it into self-defense, or it may be predominantly about self-defense, but one way or another we're going to discuss some important ideas before we kickstart techniques and things that you can do for self-defense, and all within a premise relating to me and us, all within the premise of me sharing knowledge and my experiences and stuff like that. So I'll try to mention a few things. It's not scripted. I have heaps of ideas, stuff that I thought about while working, and just stuff that I always think about, and stuff that I have talked about with people. And so I imagine there's going to be a lot of edits and stuff like that. That would be easier for me, so that I could just freestyle a bunch of flow for the ideas that I have, and not worry about trying to be concise and whatnot and all in one go. Yeah, so this may be predominantly relating to self-defense, or just fight theory, good techniques, ideas, and stuff like that. So I have some notes and whatnot, because there's some topics that I want to discuss. What we're doing here now in this room, okay, is there are some ideas, some theory that I want to touch on first before we move on to some of the physical stuff and things like that. There's a lot of stuff that I actually want to touch base on. I'm not sure. I mean, we can talk about it now. I'm not sure if I'll do additional stuff for that, like real simplified stuff, or basic stuff, or intro stuff, or where we should start with, but not taking it for granted. How to make a fist and stuff like that, the feel that you get for your fists and stuff like that. So yeah, so we're gonna cut and edit. Maybe this will be like in a flowing manner, and it'll have like a good order to it. Maybe it won't. I don't know. Maybe I can just put timestamps in the video and stuff and whatever. So let's see. A question that I've gotten asked a lot over the course of my life, and over the course of talking about fighting and stuff like that. You do come across the idea, you do come across the question, people wanting to know, is there really a best style? Is there really a best, and also kind of sincerely they want to know where they should start. So a lot of people do get this idea, they get this idea that, yeah, there's not necessarily one best one. They get that concept that so many people have discussed, and lots of great videos out there, that a martial art or any fighting thing, it also has to depend on you and how you feel and what works best with you and stuff, and you try out all different stuff. So what might be great for one person might be okay for you, and you might just take to something else might just work well for you and stuff like that. And it could be heaps of reasons why. Could really be some logical, obvious reasons, such as your physical tendencies, of your philosophies, limitations and things like that, injuries and stuff. A lot of people don't practice kicks. A lot of people don't practice a lot of kicks in their martial art because they actually have problems with their groin and their knee and stuff like that. And there are people that I know, I've met, who've had surgery. So it's not even a case where, oh, you should give it a try, you'll like it, you're just, you're underestimating it. No, they've had surgery and stuff, and I was pretty cool even when I was younger, but I definitely wasn't the elitist, but I definitely was hardcore and stuff. And now I'm even way more open and understanding and saying, hey, whatever gets you in the door, whatever gets your foot in the door, whatever gets you thinking a little bit more into training, into targeting a technique, targeting something like that. Because, so, going back, so we're going to talk some fight theory and important stuff that I think that we should discuss and contemplate and review and elaborate on that would help us moving forward. This can go simultaneously, or I can just kickstart everything by showing you something. Based on my experience, I could find something that, regardless of knowing any theory or whatnot, it'll probably work well for you, or it'll be valuable to know, or some version of that to know. Okay, however, all of these things become more enhanced and can become more effective, and the potential and the ceiling for them is greater when you have an idea of the theory behind them and stuff. And also having an idea of the theory behind them, what goes into them, what's happening with them, and all that type of stuff will also allow you to better modify. So not only does it allow you to get the most out of it and apply it in the most effective way and stuff like that, which is not as simple or straightforward as you think. It's not as simple as saying, here's what the textbook says, just do exactly like the textbook does and you should be great. No, it actually, when you reach a certain level or within that relationship, you need to identify how your body, how your mind is translating that, so that you could sort of modify or at least identify how your body is expressing what the textbook says, so that you could still do the textbook. I do the textbook, but at the same time I don't do the textbook. So, but keeping it simple, yeah, the more you understand both sides of it, the physical but also the mechanics behind it and the theory behind it, the better chances that you will have of modifying those techniques, and modifying these techniques are critical. So, like I said, I'm not going to worry about an order. Hopefully I'll be able to remember enough to know that I have to go back, but we have a timer here, and so it doesn't matter. We'll mix and match and edit it up. But so people learn from the textbook. Okay, they learn all these techniques from the text. Happens all the time. There'll be a martial art class, there'll be a martial arts student, and he learns all of the textbook correct things, all of the correct, keep the shoulder, don't lean too much, keep the shoulder back, and all of that proper stuff. Then when it comes time to sparring, which the class should be doing it, I certainly hope they are doing it, and more than just a very controlled sparring, a semi-sparring, and then also a sort of, without trying to hold back the punch, but also allowing that free form, allowing allowing that free decision-making type of element to it and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, you'll notice a lot of the times, and you'll see in the videos or whatever, you'll notice that it looks a lot more like boxing. A lot of the techniques will be cutting corners. Now, two basic things I can mention about that. What you're seeing, one of the reasons why you're seeing the modification of that techniques is because it's not being applied properly. Yes, that's true. And on the fast split section and a lot of sloppiness and clashing and stuff like that, the techniques that you'll see and all that modification is not necessarily happening intentionally, but it's happening because the person is trying to go too fast. They don't have enough experience yet, and they're still learning how to apply a proper or a textbook or something close to a textbook technique within that unpredictable free-form sparring type of thing. However, and I always like this, I always talk to people about this part a lot, as in this particular case I mentioned this part a lot. The cheating and the mistakes or the errors, and we, for lack of a better word, or what we used to describe when I was younger, we just used to call it cheating. But what we mean is cheating the move. So, like when you want to go faster, you cheat the move. So when you're going to go faster in your mind, and you're not necessarily doing that technique on purpose, which is sort of, let's say, for lack of a better word, the 1-inch punch. You're not trying to do the 1-inch punch. What's going through your mind is you're trying to go fast. So you throw one, but you don't want to come all the way back and throw another. But you're not making a conscious decision to not come all the way back, which is certainly a technique and stuff like that. You're not. You're just trying to go faster. So what happens when you're trying to go faster is you cheat and you don't fully come back. Okay, now there's benefits, pros and cons to anything, right? But the point is, when you have the chamber here, the teacher wants to see the chamber, okay? So hopefully I'm in the camera. So when it comes back, it wants to see the chamber. When you're trying to go too fast, you miss the chamber and stuff. So now what I like to point out and I like to say is those mistakes, those cheating things you're doing, they're also hints. They're giving you the moments, the avenue. They're giving you the doorway to where, okay, modification might happen, where you might want to modify and stuff. So, right. So, yeah. So in the sparring and stuff, you're going to see it all the time. So that's not textbook. That's almost just boxing. That's almost just a regular punch and stuff like that. So there's a balance that you could start to do as you master your craft and as you start thinking about these type of things. You start thinking about practical, effective, efficiency, things like that. And you say, do I want to come back to a chamber on my double punch in that type of thing? In most cases, I probably don't. But I want to, in that particular technique that we're talking about, there's a balance, and one of the critical elements to that balance is, okay, the less I bring the punch back, the less I bring the fist back to throw the next punch, the less power I'm going to have on that, okay? But the less that I bring it back, okay, the faster I can bring it back out. So there's a threshold, okay? So obviously, if you're doing this, okay, and we're not talking exceptions like Bruce Lee and the 1-inch punch and whatever and stuff, and if you're just going to go like this, it's not going to be effective enough. So, but there are pros and cons. There are circumstances and situations when any technique or a lot of techniques will be correct and when they won't be correct and stuff. So you might not be trying to do damage. It's just a stall tactic, right? It's just an interference thing. Then fine. You wouldn't want to bring back in the chamber. Now, where am I getting at? What's another thing I might be getting at here? You can't benefit and utilize this in your repertoire, in your technique, or this if you don't practice either one of them. Okay? Okay, another generalization that goes through my mind about this type of stuff is how could I be an asset to you? How can I help you? And I could throw you right into the fire and just start showing you a bunch of things that you can do and stuff, right? Like I mentioned before. Or I can start or also have this parallel or simultaneous series discussing some fight theories and ideas and things like that, right? So things that, how can I put it? Because I get asked a lot of us do, and we get asked a couple of questions about like what's best, what's ideal, what should be the order of things, and how should we start it? How would you start an intro of getting people prepared for a self-defense or to do something physical and stuff like that. So let me just, you're going to hear a lot about most fights go to the ground, okay? And I've seen heaps of fights go to the ground, sure. But I was thinking about this not too long ago, a cool way to actually elaborate on this type of thing. But a lot of those fights that went to the ground didn't go to the ground on purpose. And it's not a revelation. When people talk about fights going on around, they're not trying to tell you, they're just trying to, some really cool people are just trying to tell you, hey, a lot of fights end up on the ground, man. It would be wise if you knew some things to do if you should fall to the ground and stuff like that. Is a little bit different than if you got taken to the ground by somebody who purposely took you to the ground because there's things that they want to do on the ground. Now, somebody can rush you and both of you spiral to the ground. I've seen that happen, but that person had no additional or extra or specific skill. They had no grappling, ground game from there. They just, charged you and took you to the ground. And other times, it was a scrum, a melee, and whatnot, and both people fall to the ground. The people fall to the ground. Again, yeah, the fight has been taken to the ground, okay, but not as in an intentional game plan. And the people that fell to the ground, or at least one of them, okay, not, let's say, I don't know about the hypothetical you in this situation, but the other person, or whatever, they crash to the ground. They don't have a skill set for the ground. So there's a little bit of an interesting, detail that we need to talk about when someone says most fights will go to the ground. I've seen a lot of fights go to the ground, but they haven't gone to the ground on purpose. It wasn't intentional. It was sloppy. It was unskilled. And you would be just as effective in that situation to have skills to scramble back up than to say, well, this guy who has no skill on the ground, who took me to the ground, I'm going to spend now a lifetime or so practicing things on the ground. All right, well, that's extreme as well. Okay, so make no mistake, it's great to be well-rounded. It's great to at least have some elements in it. Guys who only know how to throw punches and stuff like that, I always stress that they should experiment with like 1 or 2 kicks, something low, something, at least to have that in their repertoire. Also because when they have a passion for fighting, they have a passion for the sport, or actually for just combat fighting and stuff like that, having a 1 or 2 kicks in your arsenal can be very valuable and stuff like that. Not too afraid of meandering. Okay, enjoy the process, right? Why can a kick be very valuable? I'll tell you exactly why. Because if I know, I'll tell you one reason why, right? Or some reasons why. Okay, and based on my experience, if I know that you don't have any kicks, okay, whether you try them or not, if I know when we're sparring that you have no kicks, you see this foot right here? You see this lead foot? I can plant my lead foot wherever I want, and I can start controlling. I can start controlling my distances a little bit more. I can start taking chances. There's another word, liberties and things like that. So if I want, okay, I can take deep stances. Now the deeper, we've learned things like this in earlier videos. Now the deeper that I go, the harder it is for me to move. But I know you're not going to do crap with that leg. As compared to a kickboxer, you think that I'm going to do this? On a kickboxer, not so easily, not so fast. I'm going to think twice. I got to be a little bit smarter, okay? I have to guard my legs and stuff like that against a kicker. If I know you don't have a kick, even when I'm not going to throw a kick, let's say, if I know you don't have a kick, then I can start playing my game with my foot and getting it on the inside and the outside of you, and I can start controlling this. I'll be doing some sparring and stuff, and you're gonna see. And you're gonna see pretty obviously. It's really tough to say. There's things that you train, but then there's things that happen over time through experience, and it's interesting. You control a certain, like a momentum and a control thing happens that's beyond just a training type of thing. It's just beyond, okay, well, he's better than him. Okay, there's a lot of extra technicalities involved, a lot of chess in that type of thing, strategic and positioning and stuff like that. So whether you're going to predominantly circle left or right, and how you're going to mix things up, and when you're bobbing, how many times are you going to bob? Because even you're bobbing and you're weaving to avoid punches can also be predictable and become a pattern, and in which case they start to become ineffective in that case. So very beginning, very basic step. Where do I start? Okay, should I start with learning some wrestling, learning some grappling, stuff like that, or should I start by learning something standing on my 2 feet? Okay, for me, okay, and without a doubt, and for anyone that I've ever helped and worked with, and I've worked with a few people and stuff, okay, you get to start. You just start on your feet, okay? And the first thing you do, and there's nothing, and this is why there's nothing, all styles have something good in them, all styles will have something that's not going to work for you and stuff like that. And then there's that small percentage, okay, I like to say small percentage in the bottom, which, okay, doesn't qualify in the fair group and somebody's doing something stupid and crazy. And then there's exceptions. Exceptions are very tricky and exceptions are dangerous. I can do exceptions for fun because I can translate and I could modify things that I've done for over 20 years, okay, and do an exception. For example, I could take 2 fingers, and with these 2 fingers, okay, I can still spot, okay, and I can do damage with them and stuff. And I can pass them off and say, oh, you see, Kung Fu, okay, but it's not true. The only thing that's true is that I've done it for 20 years. So if you do something for 20 years, you're going to make this pinky thing, you know, work. Okay. So it's a fine line between, is that a fighting style? Is that a fighting technique that we, you know, what would we want to do with that? Do we want to teach that to an army? Do I want to teach that to untrained people? How can, or in a very simple sense, okay? If it takes you 20 years to master something like that or get really good, for example, you know what I mean? You're talking specialized and you're talking extreme. So yeah, so all that stuff like smashing, if it's going to come from me, it's going to look great, it's going to work, because I already have the fundamentals. I already have the fundamentals from effective techniques and forms. So all I have to do is just translate them, modify them. Just look. So yeah, I can do the palm. Well, somebody else may have practiced the palm straight from the get-go. I don't have to practice. Claw, whatever you want. All I have to do is modify. The foundation is already there. All we're saying is, like, you already have the engine, okay? In funny cars and show cars and stuff like that, you're just fitting a body over that in the show type of sense. You know what I mean? You're fitting the body, but the engine remains constant. What the car can do based on the engine, okay? But if you want it to be technical, okay, yeah, certain bodies can, okay, affect certain things depending on how you're using the car, right? So that's why you don't see me doing pinkies. And so yes, first thing that I'm going to teach a friend, a student, okay, is how to punch a regular punch. All right, that's the first. If you can't throw a regular, even if you can't throw a regular punch, you're going to be incredibly limited, even if you get taken to the ground. Okay, if you throw a punch even from the ground, it would be nice if you could throw a punch on the ground. Okay, and get somebody off of you and stuff like that. If you can't do these things, a punch is classic. It's the #1 thing you learn. Before anything else, you must be able to learn how to punch and stuff like that. Okay, before somebody can take you down, they have to close that distance and take you down. I'm not here to disprove, okay, that one is more important than the other and stuff like that. Step 1, you need to learn how to punch. Step 1, you need to learn how to do what you effective self-defense and effective, okay, physical things in your most primary positions and stuff like that. So step 1, one of the most primary positions are on your damn 2 feet or when you're upright. Okay, one of the crown jewel characteristics of the human, of the Homo sapien, right? Being upright. Okay, but of course you should, because you might be in a chair, so you should practice things in a chair. You should practice things, okay, in confined spaces. You should practice things when you're on the ground. You should be punching and striking on the ground, and you should also practice your wrestling and grappling and stuff like that on the ground as well, because fights do end up on the ground. And when they do, okay, it would be great if the person, or if you guys coincidentally or accidentally crashed to the ground. It would be great if you knew what you were doing on the ground, because boom, you're getting an advantage over there as well. So yeah, that's the first thing I do to somebody. I teach them how to punch. And boxing is a martial art, okay, and it is one of the best martial arts. It can be so effective, okay, that you don't need kicks. That's how effective it could be. Yeah. So if you're a diehard into combat, and if you're diehard into martial arts, okay, the art of fighting and stuff like that, then you will have usually you'll have an overall belief or whatever to be well-rounded, to touch on a lot of bases and to cover a lot of bases. So yes, so it would be fair to say that you're going to piece together. It's kind of not fair to expect one martial art to cover everything, but at the same time, You certainly can look at it that way. You certainly can make a judgment and say, okay, well, this one has a lot, and all I need to do is incorporate a few more things and stuff like that. So we're going to get into a lot of great stuff. Probably this is going to be, on your own time when you want to explore and stuff. So I might not make these like short or try to worry about that. I don't know if I'm part 1, part 3, part 15. We'll see and stuff like that. I'll probably try to break it up a little bit more into intervals of relevant, relating information and stuff. So